I'm Isabel Plowman. I'm a freshman at DeLand High School, and I'm the freshman class president. I'm going to be reading Chapter 40, The Dream Scout. Beyond the door was a huge chamber, softly lit with glowing blue computer screens and white candles. An even bigger fountain gurgled in the corner, filled with the water that poured from the taps connected to the pipes of water that flowed through all the walls of the laboratory. In the middle of the chamber was another pluff mud trunk, tilted at an angle above a pool of mud warmed to 100 degrees. From this trunk, however, a series of cables left the box and connected to a computer on a table at its side. The onthrometer motor suddenly shut off, and Lando Clarison glided down for a perfect landing on the table, stopping next to a computer with its camera facing the fountain. On the screen, an image of the fountain suddenly appeared. "The doctor is sleeping," Miss Curry said softly. "Zachary would not let me wake him. It was the best way to protect him from harm," he said. I suppose he was right. None of his inventions could malfunction and hurt him here. Theresa's father walked closer and peeked in the window of the pluff mud trunk. "He's in there all right, and there's wires connected to his head." "Please wake him," Thomas said, more excited than a kid on his birthday. "I have something to show him." Miss Curry rolled up to the trunk and slid her fingertip along the control panel. The lid of the pluff mud trunk popped open, and the mud began to pour out, returning to the pool below. Dr. Flax was inside, wearing a wetsuit made of pineapple fiber. He was quite muddy and still asleep. Miss Curry pressed another button on the control panel. Jets on either side of the doctor turned on and sprayed him with warm water. In moments, he was clean of mud and his eyes flickered open. Well, that was undoubtedly the longest nap I've ever taken. But we sure accomplished a lot during my extended respite, didn't we? "What do you mean?" John asked. "You've been asleep the whole time. We saved your laboratory from your evil nephews, by the way. Theresa and I deserve a reward." Dr. Flax laughed. "A reward you deserve indeed, Mr. Cooper. You worked very well together when Zachary and his doppelganger tried to wrestle this laboratory away from me. I fear they would have kept me in eternal dreams hiatus if they had their way. But you were quick on your feet with my plastic-eating glue, and Miss Brown proved that she could give quite an inspirational speech when the battle seemed nearly lost. You would make a fine general, Miss Brown, if you ever chose to lead the sciences." Then the doctor turned to Ashley. "And great thanks to you, Miss Dean. How difficult it must have been to give us this entire laboratory to do the right thing. That took great courage." John was about to protest, but Theresa stomped her shoeless foot on him to shut him up. "But how did you know?" Ashley asked, completely embarrassed by the part she had played in the events of the morning. Dr. Flax put up his finger excitedly. "By the camera on my orthoproditor, of course. This flying machine was my first invention ever. When I was 10 years old, I replicated the design of my hero, Leonardo da Vinci. I made it out of plastic and tarp and I found around the house. Although I made many upgrades over the years, I placed a tiny computer and camera on its beak and discovered how to control it with my thoughts alone." He excitedly took the 3 cables from the computer and attached them to Theresa's head with 3 small stickers. Then he clicked a few keys on the computer's keyboard. "I call it my Dream Scout. By connecting these leads to Miss Brown's thalamus, medial prefrontal cortex, and posterior cingulate cortex, she can close her eyes and see what the Dream Scout sees. Try it." Theresa closed her eyes, and indeed, as if she hasn't closed her eyes at all, she could see the fountain gurgling in the corner. When she opened her eyes, she was looking at the doctor again. Over time, and with a lot of practice, I learned I could fly the Dream Scout with my thoughts even as I slept. This has been very useful to my work, as I've always found that 8 hours of sleep a day, although important for the body, is an awful long recess for the mind. Besides, I couldn't waste any time knowing that Tommy was missing. Every night I put myself in this tank and searched for him with the Dream Scout. That is, until my nephew locked me in here, like Snow White to slumber until my prince and 2 princesses arrived to save me. And see here, you've arrived as expected. You've earned extra credit too, by rescuing my dear Tommy." Dr. Flax knelt down and stretched his arms wide. Thomas came running to him tight. "I've missed you, Father," Thomas said. Dr. Flax kissed him on the forehead. "I've missed you too, my sweet boy." "Why is Lando Clarison the pilot?" John asked. Dr. Floss picked up the action figure and straightened him out on his hand. Because I'm a big Star Wars fan, and besides, don't you think we look alike? The doctor placed the little Lando's face next to his own. Maybe, Theresa thought, but if the doctor had ever resembled the handsome, smooth-talking scoundrel, it was probably years ago. So, you saw everything that happened, Ashley said with worry. You saw me make a deal with Zachary to take over the lab. You saw me throw my alginism at Theresa and John, and then you saw me force them to sign the contract? I did, Miss Dean, Dr. Fleck said quietly. I'm so sorry, she blurted out. I'm so ashamed. I was so greedy. If I had known you were watching. Then you would never have acted as you did, Dr. Fleck said, thinking of yourself as a subject in one of my most interesting experiments. You've proven yourself to be an ambitious young woman, Miss Dean, a quality I suspect will bring you far in your scientific career and will also get you into a great deal of trouble. Ashley had to look away in embarrassment. And again, John was about to say something until Theresa bopped him on the shoulder to be quiet. Father, Thomas said, eagerly pulling the doctor's wetsuit, I have something incredible to show you. Yes, Thomas, yes. We certainly have a lot to review and discuss, don't we? You'll be so proud of me, Thomas said, pulling off his winter coat and scarf. His middle chest, they all saw, contained a cabinet just like his sister's, although his was covered with a layer of frost. I've been keeping it ice cold for days, he said, and he opened his cabinet to show everyone what was contained inside.